Welcome everybody to the Focus on Profits course number 8, Marketing Commercial Service, how to close 7 to 10 appointments per week. My name is Wendell Bedell. I'm the president of GrowMyHVAC.com and today's presenter. First, we just have a very brief housekeeping slides here. The agenda that we'd like to use today is first give you a little brief introduction to who we are as a training organization. Then get into the, what is the cost of obtaining commercial leads today? We're going to talk about old school versus new school. What is the profile? What is it that commercial customers need from us that we need to be aware of and how to position our companies on? And then talk about the 10-step lead generation process that you should use to help harvest your fair share of the market opportunities. And then when you get a lead, get an opportunity, how do you make that first right impression? So we'll talk about professional sales call handling and how you approach first call versus second, third, fourth call. How do you use value-based selling to close more appointments? How to leverage service agreement, project pricing, selling, and proposal writing systems that are available to you today so that you can close more business. And then we'll briefly talk about the ready-built programs and various pricing options so that you can get a hold of these processes that we're going to be presenting here today through our various ready-built commercial service HVAC contractor programs. First, a little bit about who we are. We were founded in 1998 as a retail, residential, and commercial HVAC contractor training organization. We have over 2,500 active contractors in our network of clients throughout the U.S. and Canada. However, what really makes us different is that we're the first in the industry to actually set up and build and maintain on the contractor's behalf pricing systems for service repair on residential installation, commercial service agreement pricing, design, build, retrofit, and that we're also the first in the industry to create, through research, ready-built HVAC proven retail, residential, and commercial service contractor website, departmental processes, forums, staff online job training for your people, and live implementation support right at your desktop. And we're also the first in the industry to provide a 100% money-back guarantee for the programs we offer. Not even a franchise offers a guarantee. Even though we provide a similar process, we're the only ones that guarantee it. Of course, the cost of our programs are down around a cup of coffee a day versus giving up 48% of your revenue. Not to mention $48,000 to $68,000 in sign-up fees. So let's talk a little bit about some contractor testimonials about our ready-built lead generation website, professional service and sales call handling processes, opportunity assessment processes, pricing and work delivery systems and forms, all designed to help the commercial service-based contractor with proven harvesting processes, while not only harvesting but also maximizing your profits. Here's a comment about the website. The website is the best thing since pockets were put on t-shirts. I'm serious. You've saved me thousands of dollars in costly website services and from working with people where I had to do all the content work myself. The best part is you also provided me with a user-friendly website design with proven built-in lead generator for my service and replacements. The Commercial Service and Project Sales Certification Training Seminar has allowed us to recognize more efficient ways to run our service department while increasing gross profits. By using the BSI sales tools, it has allowed our project sales to be more professional and priced more accurate. Your commercial service agreement standard operating procedures and AccuPro estimating program have helped us grow our commercial service agreement sales. The maintenance tasking and the sales performance accountability gives structure and accomplishment to the team. You have given us a professional look to our proposals and presentations, which we feel has created more value to our customer and increased our closing ratio. Now, the program that we're going to be presenting here today for commercial contractors as well as our residential programs. Won first prize at Comfort Tech 2010. Okay, so much for the commercial. Let's dig into how you go about marketing commercial service today, and how to personally close 7 to 10 appointments per week that are 50% or better to close. Before we begin, let's get a good firm handle when we're talking about lead generation. What's it cost us? What's the cost of a sales rep? So let's begin with what we have to pay them. When you look at the average sales rep costs, which runs around $50,000, of course it's higher in certain metropolitan areas and lower as you get into areas more rural. It's all based on the cost of living and that kind of stuff. But anyway, at $50,000 is an average. The average costs to support a sales rep with pay and support expenses, the studies show that are 2.25 times that base salary, or $90,000 in gross profit margin that you're going to need to recover in order to pay, keep a sales rep on board. Now the average hours worked for a sales rep is around 45 hours a week, easy. It times 48 weeks a year, because you got a couple of weeks vacation, 5 days sick or mental days as I used to call them, and then maybe some training. So 48 is about the average. So anyway, you start with 52 and subtract logically from there. But the average is around 48 weeks on a good year. So the total available hours for a sales rep to work is about 2,160 hours in a full annual period. Now let's take a look at the cost per lead, because that's really what dictates how we conduct ourselves as sales reps. What I know I've told you maybe this in previous webinars or seminars that you may have attended with us, but in commercial business, unlike in residential, in commercial business, it takes business-to-business communication done by a dedicated human resource, versus residential where I can run a tune-up ad or run run a radio spot or something like that. The way we actually expand the commercial end of the business is through people calling people or touching people. So anyway, the old school, driving around, you can get about 4 decent 50% or better leads a week, in a 24-hour period. You can maybe knock on a lot of doors, but very few people are actually saying, hey, I'd like to have you do something for me. But you can get four out of, I've done this myself. You get about 4 leads per week in a 24-hour period. So driving around, you get 4 leads, 48 weeks a year. That's 192 decent leads. That means these 192 represent about 50% or better to close. So driving around to get the leads takes 24 hours, because it takes about 24 hours to generate these 4 leads times 48 weeks. So it's 1,152 hours it's going to take me to get 192 decent leads that I can put estimates on. So if you had 152 hours a year and you divide it by 2,160 available, times that gives you a percent, times that $90,000 of costs, it comes out to about $48,000 in costs just to get the leads. Okay, so a cost per lead, $48,000 divided by 192 comes up with about $250 a lead. Now I know most of you attending this session have heard that $250 and higher number, and believe me, we got contractors out there at the lower end that it's more like $450 a lead, because they're not getting 4 leads a week. Now when you leverage new school technologies, using your Outlook that's free on all office suites, now you got contact management software like Act and Goldmine. You can buy a list of owner-occupied industries, so you can harvest by calling out and reaching someone with a very specific and professional message, and you send line cards and letters, so you're following up with warm calls. But if you're leveraging New School, that means the bulk of the leads are coming in through your churning the phone, which is more common in today's, but of course you still have to go face-to-face. This is a people business. But what you want to do is get more of them to go see. So if you want 8 leads a week that are 50% better to close, then most contractors spend about 9 hours a week. Okay, that's 3 hours a day, 8:30 to 11:30, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Those are prime time dialing for dollar times. That's calling, cleaning the list with the decision maker's name, sending off a letter and a line card through a mail merge, and then the next day following up on last week's letters you sent and the following day. So a day and a half of cleaning the list, day and a half of following up on calls. I mean, on letters you've already sent. So with that type of a process, I can generate 8 leads times 48. That's 364 leads a year. All right, that's a big improvement over 192. And if I spend 9 hours to get those 8 leads, then that's like 482 hours a year to get those 364 leads. So 482 hours of tasking time to develop those 364 leads divided by 2160 comes out, and then multiply that fraction by 90,000, you come up around $20,000 in cost to generate my leads. So a cost per lead, 20,000 divided by 364 is closer to $54 a lead, or 1/5 the cost of driving around the neighborhood. So if you have technology, you have lists available to you today. Of course, we help you, get the owner-occupied list versus government, state, local, and federal government bid lists. If you want to go after entities where you have a higher opportunity or greater chance of selling on a negotiated basis so you can increase your margins, then you want to be only harvesting in your neighborhoods where it's a good fit. So we help you. There's about 27 standard industrial classification codes that the federal government assigns to various industries that we recommend you go after. So when you go buy a list, you buy it based on standard industrial classification code numbers. And then once you get them in the bucket, you sort them by industry type so that you can do target marketing. But we'll talk more about that. So what would you rather spend? $250 a lead or $50 a lead? $54 a lead. Now, the rule of thumb is this is what you get at the end of week 12 where you're harvesting out. You generate this kind of a flow. But if you don't have any leads on a Monday when you first start this process, or on a Friday, then you definitely want to be showing up at the first office park and go through, and you can drop off letters and stuff like old school, because it's still more productive than not doing anything at all. So using a combination of both of these, most contractors do not find it difficult to get enough leads in the door to justify having a commercial sales rep on. Now let's turn our attention to what commercial customers need. Now, the preferred method for any owner of a facility or a facility manager was to always hire in-house staff. However, the studies show if they don't have at least 1,700 hours or higher of requirements internally, then they need to outsource. Doesn't make sense. So below 1,700 hours, which is about 98.9% of the market, they're going to have way less than 1,700 hours. So, but however, when they go to outsource their commercial support services, then they're still trying to replace something that only they can replace with in-house staff, and that is the primary need is fast and skilled response. Okay, so when we communicate to them, we need to be communicating how we understand that their primary objective is to get fast and skilled response. So what do our clients need in a service agreement? So, what's their goals? So when I'm out going after their business, I got to be communicating certain things about my program that it meets or exceeds their requirements, like avoiding expensive downtime, by cleaning heat transfer surfaces, or maintaining proper comfort and air quality by making sure we tune the systems, reduce energy waste, extend the equipment asset value, obtain the lowest possible cost to them by only giving them exactly what they need for maintenance tasking to help them optimize both their energy and operating costs. And then help them avoid business risk associated with contracting these services to contractor. So when they contract to us, we tell them how we avoid their liability, avoid them, which is common out of 9 out of 10 contractors out there. Because 9 out of 10 contractors out there don't do things like background checks, safety training, drug screening, and have enough liability coverage. And then naturally 100% of all buildings need HVAC equipment maintenance. However, we don't want to be doing business with all of them, and we'll talk more about that. So what do our clients need on projects? Well, they'd like to achieve reduced project implementation time. In other words, have as small of a footprint and be as least amount of disruptive to my operations, like get in, get out. They also want to obtain the lowest possible cost. So whatever you propose to them should ideally meet their unique comfort, health, safety, property, or financial requirements. They also want you to adhere to their unique business, technical, and timing requirements. Many a business I had gotten in the past was because I can get in and get out. Avoid business risk associated with the HVAC service. Now, with our services on maintenance, as well as the services we provide on projects, you want to be pointing to the standards to which you adhere to, like the ASHRAE standards, OSHA requirements, the Better Business Bureau, so that they know that you're legit. So now let's talk about the 10-step lead generation process. Even though 100% of all the buildings out there need our equipment maintenance, we do not want to do business with all of them. Your lead generation process should try to avoid poor pay and no pay type industries. Now, marketing is another word for lead generation. So when you hear people banter the word about marketing, they're really talking about lead generation stuff. And lead generation only happens when customers become aware. So marketing or lead generation is done not only through business-to-business communication, but when you arrive on site on a service call or a sales call, you should continue with a process to make the customer aware of any option where we can come in and help them improve their situation for comfort, health, safety, property, and financial. So we're real big about assessments, using assessment processes and seasonally time. Of course, not all industries have opportunities that coincide in the same time of year. Like healthcare would be July 1. Schools and education center July 1, healthcare October 1. And of course, most commercial are January 1. But knowing that helps you dictate, when you need to reach out and touch certain industries as well. It requires a person or persons dedicated to do the tasking, labor tasking required consistently each week to reach out and touch someone. So the first step is you should identify your service capabilities, because you don't want to be going after businesses and entities where you don't have the capabilities, unless of course you partner with outside resources. Like we used to partner for when we did design build, we partnered with a guy who gave us a price for the sheet for anything structural, or we had a guy if we had to do any sheet metal, he did all our sheet metal design. So you can always team up with capabilities. Or we had one company where they didn't have centrifugal chiller capabilities, but they could do everything else. So they outsourced their centrifugal chiller maintenance portions of their contracts to this other entity, which they could through their own contract structure. You want to identify what are you going to sell. Don't forget, what you have to sell are packages of services based on the skill sets of your people. So, demand service, that's no heat, no cool calls, give me leak free. Service agreements, they could be monthly, biannually, quarterly type agreements. They could be, they can add additional services in there for air filtration to water treatment to whatever. Replacements, equipment replacements. So we arm our people with energy savings tables, so they can quickly show the customer, average, life expectancy as well as cost and all that stuff of old equipment versus new, how much money they could save to help finance any upgrades. Retrofit, design, build. Do you offer financing? Do you offer like GE Capital or Horizon Capital? You want to identify your target markets. Usually you take a good look at the business you got right now. And it's not uncommon for a lot of companies to say, I'm not going to do this type of business anymore. I want to move in a different direction. Well, fine. We show you how to let the air out of one and build up your capabilities in another, so that you can seamlessly transition over to harvest your fair share. But you want to be able to profile whatever, like I had a lot of contracts I used to expand either with frequency of inspection, better quality maintenance, coil cleaning, better filtration, so that I would always have a group of customers that I'm going to be proposing to, or large commercial accounts where I was going to replace a piece of equipment as part of the contract for the year. Of course, that depends on your financial, internal as well as external capabilities. Purchase a targeted business list. Now, we help you buy a list from a list broker who's already got the SI standard industrial classification codes of some 27 owner-occupied industries that you can have purchased from a 30-mile or 60-mile radius of your office. 30 miles if you're heavily dense, 60 miles, if you're not. If you're out in rural Michigan, you may want to do 60. If you're downtown Detroit, you may want to go 15 or 30. But anyway, you buy a list of owner-occupied industries that you can reach out and solicit, so that you have a fighting chance of negotiating a profitable opportunities. Then you want to import the list, whether it's your existing customers that you have in an Excel spreadsheet, or an export out of your QuickBooks, or you have a contact management, or you buy a list, you import it into Outlook, which is free and not Microsoft Office, or Act, or Goldmind, or Sales Logic, or any other type of system. But most contractors we know use Outlook because it's already part of their Microsoft Office suite. Then you want to sort the list based on the type of business that you want to go after, so you can become very, very fine-tuned on who you're going to call first, second, third, and fourth. So you have a plan and a list that you're going to follow up on. Then you want to prepare your business-to-business campaign. That is creating your direct mail piece that you're going to use for the industry you're going after. We give you a library and show you how to customize them for the industries, and many already are for you, so that you can have a mailer, and then also a follow-up call script. So when the letter goes out to the decision maker, because you don't talk to the decision maker, the days of calling and trying to reach a decision maker are over. I mean, you want to really upset a client that you haven't done business with yet, go ahead and interrupt them during the week. When he's got these communication issues, or he has they're usually always understaffed, to run the building. So you don't want to be calling and making a poor first impression. So you want to reach out and touch them first with a professional message. And when you call them, stay on cue, so that you're just simply following up and you're seeing if there's an opportunity to give them a competitive price to maintain their building's heating and cooling equipment. But we'll talk about that again in a minute. But we provide you the script to use. Now, we're not telling you to read from a script, but we do tell you to know how you're going to take this call. So you reach out to see if there's an opportunity based on the mechanical safeguard program you might have sent them last week to offer them a competitive price to maintain their building's heating and cooling equipment. Then before you get off the phone, you want to flush out if there's any opportunity at all to give them a second opinion or a price on a project they'd like to have a price on, or if they're planning any kind of a retrofit in the future or whatever. And then last but not least, making sure or verifying that it's okay to set them up as an account. So if they call you and they'd like to test you out, then, so all three products, service, projects, and demand service are being broached at the time you're following up and making that first contact with the customer. Okay? But it's very important that you stay on cue. Then you want to set weekly tasking goals. Like, how many calls a week will you be making to reach out and penetrate 50 to 80 to 100 people a week? Okay. So, from there, how many follow-up calls you're going to make, so that, how many letters are going to go out. So that way there you can start tracking this, because without it, that means you don't have a marketing process or lead generation process in place. Because the first part is cleaning the list and touching them with a request to provide a competitive price. And then the second thing is labor that would be required to do a follow-up. So you can break those two apart if you wish. Have somebody administratively in the office reach out and clean the list and send off letters, while the other person who's in sales is responsible for doing the follow-up and try to get the appointment. But I've actually had some companies actually break even that up with between that and sales. And sales strictly goes out, does a survey, the estimate, the proposal, and the close. And in some industries, They're also responsible for doing the project implementation. Then you want to clean the list. So you're going to be calling out with a list you purchased and that you've added to your customer list you want to call anyway. And you want to import it. You want to clean it by getting the decision maker's name. So when you call out, just like using a script, you're just trying to find out who in the organization that you could send a package to and a line card that's responsible for providing them a competitive price to maintain their building heating and cooling equipment. So the people you're talking to at the other end know you're not there to just start talking to someone. You're there just trying to get the right name so you can send off this package. Okay. But then before you get off the line, though, you want to make sure when you do call out that you ask for their email address if it's available. Then you want to mail an introduction letter or line card to the list that you have cleaned today, and then tomorrow I sign them, get them in the mail. Then I start my follow-up calls on the letters I sent last week to identify client scope of work and develop proposal development requirements. I set appointments. Usually I'm trying to set it up, 6 to 8 weeks in advance of the opportunity. So if, it's like right now, if I called them now and it's say February 1st, and they just had a contract renewal January 1, and they want me to give them a competitive price when the contract renews, then I'm usually telling them I'd like to set it up in the first week of October so I can come in well in advance to explore with them ways to either reduce their operating cost or improve the quality of the program they've got. And then report weekly tasking plan to my boss or my owner so that he can justify the percent of salary he pays me, that the marketing systems are in place, that he does have a marketing campaign and it's working. And so whether you use people in the office to do the cleaning and the appointment setting, or use a salesperson for that as well as going out and doing a survey, estimate, proposal writing, how you organize, we can have that discussion because we've done many different ways to get out there and touch someone. Now, when you do get an appointment, because you're using a process and you're using scripts, you want to make that first impression. Setting up your professional business-to-business direct awareness campaigns that involve not only written communique, but how you are communicating with the client during a cleaning, as well as get cleaning the list, as well as doing a follow-up call, and then the process you use when you first go out and meet the client. Now, when you send off a letter, you want to send off a letter which has lots of white space and it's been customized to some degree for the industry you're going after. So under the things that you have 20 years experience in, or 5 years or 10 years experience in, whatever length of time your business has, because you just customize a letter that we provide you. And let's say you're going after healthcare facilities. Well, maybe you have autoclaves, steam generators that you're responsible for maintaining. You're responsible for replaying elements and stuff for their steam generators. So you'd put that in there, autoclaves. So you're talking their language. There are hundreds of competitors in most of our areas. I don't care if you're rural or you're city. Professionalism is totally lacking throughout our industry. Very rarely does a facility manager or owner get an opportunity to view a contractor in a professional light. Well, when they get a letter like this, it looks like you're kind of efficient. So they can't really put a finger on it, but it looks like you may be efficient because of the way you communicate with them. And the fact that you adhere to standards looks like you're legit. And it looks like you're in my business because of what you're saying. The line card that you add to it is to quickly, at a glance, position you and your company, you as a sales rep and the company you work for, as being in their business of the industry you're going after today. So I don't care if it's insurance companies, healthcare facilities, and manufacturing, assembly, or food processing, whatever industry you're going after this week, quickly customize the line card. Now, you may not have a lot of these capabilities like process piping and all this stuff. So I have a lot of contractors have 3 pictures on the left of the industry going after, 3 blocks in the center describing what they do for service, design, build, and locations, and then 3 pictures on the right that have pictures of my people doing work. So the whole purpose of the letter and the line card is to differentiate by branding you and your company as professionals in the industry. So every time you touch them with a letter, every time you do a follow-up call to this account, you're hitting the decision maker with the letter first, which is 100% penetration, then you're going to follow up with them with the script so that you continue with that second reach. That means there's 200% reach into the decision makers that buy our services. So let's talk a little bit about value-based selling process that's used in your communication, your sales rep professional communication, to help you close more maintenance and opportunities. So when I sent off a letter last week, this week now I'm going to be talking for the first time to the decision maker that I had just sent the letter to last week. So it's really a warm call. It's not a cold call. Actually, I'm following up on a package that I sent last week. All right, so totally different. I'm actually calling for a reason versus calling for no reason, which they don't appreciate. So I'm calling for a reason. I want to let them know that we're serious. That's why I'm calling, to follow up on a package that I sent last week to provide them a competitive price to maintain their buildings, heating, and cooling equipment. And before I get off the phone with them, I'm going to qualify by this script or the content of this script, because I've maybe memorized this before I started calling, because I went through it like 10 times open, and then I used it maybe once or twice live, using it, and I just read well because I rehearsed it so well. And then finally I just use it as a guide to stay on track. But either way, I communicate that I'm interested in giving them a competitive price to maintain their buildings, heating, and cooling equipment, but then flush to make sure there's no opportunity, or a opportunity, it may exist, for providing a competitive price or a second opinion or something that the existing vendor they have now hasn't been able to resolve to their satisfaction. And then third, I want to make sure that I'd like to flush the account if there's no opportunity for the first or second, or if there is, still continue to make sure that we can set them up as an account because they want to test us out. Okay? And if they ask you about who you are and what's your company, then there's a place for you to go in and give them which I used to call a half-a-minute elevator drill, to which you're going to give them more information when you meet. Okay? But if there's an opportunity for a project or a service agreement estimate and proposal opportunity, I don't just go willy-nilly run out there and go meet the client. It's much more efficient if you schedule it 60 days before they really need it. That way you're not wasting. You're not wasting a single moment out there other than producing sales for yourself. Okay. Now, when you first meet the customer, though, the customer awareness or marketing process it has to continue. I mean, you have to, on a first call service agreement or a first call project, you have to make the customer aware really who you are, what makes you different, and how you have to, why is it that your company sets the standards of performance in the area versus what's going on out there in 9 out of 10 contractors. And how you understand their unique industry needs and how your branded solution, like in our program, we have the mechanical safeguard program for mechanical industrial. We have the health guard program for healthcare clinics and healthcare facilities. So we have different brands, or if it's a plant shutdown, it's emergency restoration, A-team. So we give you a brand for the types of packages that you could possibly offer the industry you're going after. That meets their unique needs. And then what is the approach that you're going to use here today to go out and survey their requirements and then come back and then provide options to the customer to either reduce their operating cost or improve the quality of their program, all per meeting industry endorsed standards from ASHRAE, the Better Business Bureau, OSHA, and the such. Okay. And then how your approach will, what's the approach you're going to use to make sure that they obtain the low cost at the least possible risk. So when you first meet the customer on a service agreement, you want to make sure that you spend 5 to 10 minutes with a desktop presentation and real quickly communicate to this customer exactly who you are, what makes you different. What's the process? How is it that you understand their unique business requirements? So you build this, or I should say you customize this very quickly for each industry you're going after so that you look legit. You look like you're in their business to help differentiate you from the other 20, 30 guys that may have knocked on their door that just came in with a notepad stuck in their pocket. Okay. Same thing on a project. You want to be communicating their requirements that we went over earlier. And you want to do it in such a way that your Guardian design build program totally takes responsibility for adhering to the things that they need for timing, financial, and risk and liability protection requirements. Now, if they don't do a deal with you, right then and there when you present your proposal, you want to make sure that when you walk out of there, that you leave the customer something that they can compare you to your competitor to. I had many deals where I was premium compared to the other two butt crack mechanicals, where I was premium in price. They took me because they simply asked those other two the first 6 questions on this list. And the contractor didn't have enough liability coverage. They didn't do any safety training like we do. They didn't do any drug testing or background checks, or they didn't have enough liability protection insurance. So, and that's just the first 6 questions. So most companies don't make it past the first 6, but you have 20 reasons why you're the top dog in the neighborhood. Now, the estimating tool, you want to be leveraging technology, because when you get into packaged rooftop units, you got over 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 tons, 200 tons, or 1,000 tons of heating and air conditioning equipment, then you want a tool that lets you quickly customize the agreement to either using the highest labor grade level, like the highest price technician across all categories, or if it's large enough to actually customize the estimate to use the labor and how you're going to staff it, like using a journeyman for the startup on these piece of equipment, but a third-year guy mid-season and shutdown and for the operating inspections, or using apprentices for filters and whatnot. But whatever way you build your estimate, you can either do it with the highest labor grade level, which you should, so you don't have any constraints placed in service, or you can actually get management approval to estimate it the way you're going to staff it. And then offer the customer, at a button click, inspection only contract, full labor, where you got the repair labor, and the customer pays you for repair materials, and full coverage, where you're responsible for the repair labor and or material, component moving part materials. And if that's what you got for a contract, you can estimate it. And we show you how to get in the business if you're not in it now, and what types of strategies you should use to make sure that you don't take a risk on when you do land a contract that actually has repair labor or repair material liability in it. Now, the service agreement proposal is all making that first impression. Customers today don't like contract-looking stuff. What they like looking at is consulting agreements. So you can, with a couple of global, customer's name and your name, you can actually customize this and actually have it set up for each industry you're going after, so that your proposals look totally customizable, but that are benefits based, so that the table of contents talks about the benefits you're bringing to the table with your maintenance services, which are many, because actually your benefits is adhering to their requirements. If you want to think of it that way. Project Pro, again, you can create templates of estimates. So if I just did a 10-ton rooftop replacement, and next week I have a 12.5-ton, I can pull up the 10-ton, edit the curb and the unit and a couple of things here and there, so that it helps minimize the risk. Now, on all jobs, whether you're there on a quoted work or a service agreement or a design build or a retrofit, we give you the forms required to properly assess the opportunity for service agreements or indoor projects, and no matter what the project is, the type. So it helps enable you to create libraries of stock estimates to help reduce your errors, as well as increase the speed to market, as well as provide you some professionalism in front of your customer when he sees you pulling out forms, surveying the opportunity, interviewing them for their scope of work and financial transaction requirements, which are built into the forms. Again, on projects though, just like in service agreements, depending on the type of job, whether it be a retrofit, energy conservation project, or multiple work categories, this particular one is straight up, equipment replacement. It has a standard matrix where you're plugging in maybe the first 2 blocks for the type of equipment and the type of replacement you're doing. But it has standard boilerplates that work done on normal working hours, submittals furnished upon request. After they can't ask you for your design. You know what I mean? Anyway, we talk more about that in our courses about how to present your proposals. But anyway, this one here shows you how one would be laid out, and of course the biggest thing that we help you with is making sure you do a spend plan on each proposal, so that you can actually create your schedule of payments, so that if you have to order up equipment and start the job tomorrow, then they should be cutting a check for this much. so you can get the stuff. I mean, you don't want to be taking any liability for negative cash flow just because somebody gives you an order. This is where most contractors go out of business, by the way, when they exceed their ability to pay debt. Because if you don't get paid and you going on the hawk for a customer and they didn't pay you when they said they're going to pay you and you eat it, then now it hurts you, not them. Okay. Anyway, the logical next steps to close 7 to 10 appointments: you purchase a list. You identify your target markets. You create a line card, cover it, and create a letter. We give you libraries for that. We help you buy the list. You want a call script. So when you follow up with the customer, you're on cue. It's all already in your company name, and you're trying to get the 3 types of deals, whether it be service agreement, retrofit project, and or have them test you out for demand service. Establish weekly goals. You should have a process to report weekly so that it's very efficient for management. It's also very efficient for you. Establishing goals, and put together your weekly plan is kind of a no-brainer. But we can show you, whether you're new to the industry, how to put together to make goal within week 12, so that you keep on building it until you're cutting and you're hitting goal. And then of course, having leveraging your first call presentation, pricing, proposal writing programs and systems, but really making that first impression. So let's talk a little bit about the ready-built HVAC contractor options you have available. Now, within the commercial service department training track that has all the proven processes and forms and your staff job training, one of the things you get is a service agreement lead generation process and forms that includes the direct mail campaigns, proven service agreement expansion strategies and tactics, business list procurement assistance, individual sales rep tasking planning we can help you with, lead tracking and performance reporting procedures. We have a complete system. It's real easy, Excel based, so it allows you to really primarily focus on the deals that are coming in, so you can put strategies on there, and then also quickly verify if your investment that you're making each week in the marketing or customer awareness programs are working. Professional service agreement sales call handling procedures. That's the value-based sales training and coaching program we alluded to here. The commercial service agreement assessment forms, the service agreement sales call presentation, especially if it's the first call. AccuPro, which is the commercial industrial service agreement inspection, full labor, full coverage pricing program that's used across the country. Professional service proposal and agreement templates, so that you're best in class. We have them for 99.9% of the time you're going to be using the multi-page one. But if it's a strip mall or a single package rooftop units, we also have templates for ones as well. Professional technician service call handling procedures and forms, making sure that your technicians adhere to best practice procedures. How do you communicate to your technicians on a service call as well as a service agreement so they're not dropping balls on you? What are the tasking sheets? How are they to report performance? How are you going to report performance to your customer? What are the customer care call handling procedures? How do you answer that phone? How do you communicate internally to your technician? How does a technician communicate back to the house if there is opportunities to help the customer where the decision maker is not present or he doesn't have access to? How do you set up a dispatch board so you're tracking your calls that are in progress, that are pending and completed, and calls waiting for parts, and service agreements by blocks of hours so that you're using those blocks of hours and calls waiting for parts, so that when people come up for air and they need something to do, you can, let's say I need 3 hours here, I can take a 3-hour agreement and assign it to that person. But how do you mobilize your technicians so you mobilize them closest to the skill set levels and that kind of stuff. So the whole process that's best in class, that's already endorsed by a lot of the franchises that are out there, especially on the commercial side. That's what you want to be putting in, so you're not making mistakes. The dispatch, service call handling, communication, and of course, how do your technicians communicate, both internally as well as externally with your customers? Design, build, lead generation procedures. We have lead generation and customer awareness campaigns for design build, individual lead track performance monitoring, professional design build sales call handling, project site assessment and survey forms so that you're accurately surveying, what you're going to demo, what you're going to install, or what you're putting in new, what are the financial and business transaction requirements for the customer, statement of qualification packages. more and more larger corporations today are looking for you to qualify yourself before they allow you in their building. So we have a professional set already dressed up. So no matter how big you are, we can make you look big. Project Pro is the estimating tool that we presented briefly to you there, but it actually allows you to create templates and help you expedite and professionalize and accurately estimate. And of course, our service agreement and our Project Pro, the summary of the estimates are identical, so that when you're looking at work, you're looking at the same categories of work on your summary sheets. So it makes it easier to mobilize and watch and monitor your pricing. Written step-by-step design build project delivery standards and procedure from lead to final closeout. These are all of our standard operating procedures for, and no matter what department that you obtain, has everything you need in it to accurately do business, like best in class, as if you went out and bought a franchise. Professional project proposal agreement templates. Again, all these departments are ready built. The training for your staff, and then of course we work with you to customize the implementation strategy that you need to make these, to get the processes and forms implemented within your business. The commercial project department track also includes a professional project sales call handling procedures. Based on value-based selling, training, and coaching, it includes the commercial project opportunity assessment survey forms. It includes the project sales call presentation. It includes Project Pro, commercial industrial project pricing and estimating program. And it also provides you a complete set of professional project proposal agreement templates. And for your field people, it includes a professional field installation procedures, written project standard procedures and forms, customer care call handling, in and around projects, installer daily call reporting and debriefing, communication guides. Now, we offer all 6 departments, the commercial service, commercial design build, financial management, human resource management, as well as residential service and residential installation with a website for $295 a month. For a very limited time going forward, that has been reduced to the $225 amount that has all 6 departments without a website. So presently, for $225 a month, you simply enroll in the $295 department track and simply cross out the $295 and write $225 and initial it. We also offer it the 2 commercial departmental tracks, the commercial service and design build with a website and without for $210 a month or $149 a month. However, for $225 a month, you get all 6 departments on a website, so usually you're much better off getting the better program. So here is my direct contact information, 603-557-1611, or email me at wendellb@growmyhvac.com. You can look at the website either on our website at growmyhvac.com or simply click in ReadyBuiltHVACWebsites.com and you'd go right there as well. So either way, again, we dress this up in your preferred vendor brand.